She came with venom in her voice, and a laminated clipboard like it was a badge of power. Clarissa Monroe, president of the Pinecrest HOA, arrived uninvited on the Nguyen family's doorstep early Sunday morning, her heels crunching over dew-covered gravel like she owned the world. Without knocking, she slapped a blinding orange violation notice on the front door, loud, hard, and deliberate. It was her third one this month. "Your dog barked again. That's another violation," she snapped, not even bothering to look up as she jotted down notes in her leather-bound rulebook. 16-year-old Leah Nguyen sat quietly on the porch, her slender fingers resting gently on the head of her service dog, Miso, a golden retriever whose soft eyes followed Clarissa with concern. Leah's electric scooter hummed faintly beneath her, her legs wrapped in a light blanket. She looked up, her voice calm but unsure. "It was just one bark. He only barked when the mail carrier passed by." Her tone was polite, respectful, but Clarissa didn't budge. "It doesn't matter. 3 noise complaints this month. That's a $300 fine." Her voice was sharp and clipped, the kind of voice people used to speak to someone they didn't see as fully human. "But he's trained. He's a service dog. He's quiet most of the time," Leah explained, brushing Miso's fur for comfort more than explanation. Clarissa's face twisted in disdain. "Not my problem," she said, raising her phone to take photos of Leah, the scooter, the dog. Evidence, as if the girl were a criminal and her mobility aid a public nuisance. "And that scooter? It's an eyesore. Keep it inside or you'll get another fine. I'll report it." With that, she turned and marched down the driveway, her heels clicking like gunshots. Leah sat frozen for a moment, her heart pounding and eyes stinging. They had only moved into Pinecrest 2 months ago, drawn in by the promise of a peaceful community and accessible paths. But from the very first week, Clarissa Monroe had made it clear that the Nguyen family was not welcome. And Leah knew, deep down, in the space where truth echoes loudest, that this had nothing to do with dogs or noise or scooters. Clarissa didn't like that someone like her, someone with a visible disability, had moved into her polished cookie-cutter world. She didn't want difference. She wanted control. Inside the house, her mother Lynn came to the door, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She saw the orange notice and her daughter's trembling lip, and immediately wrapped her arms around Leah's shoulders. "Don't let her get to you, sweetheart," she whispered. "Some people carry so much darkness in their hearts, it leaks out onto everything they see." Leah wanted to believe her. She really did. But as she looked at the notice, then at the back of Clarissa's car pulling away down the hill, she couldn't help but ask, "Why me, Mom? What did I do wrong?" Lynn looked at her daughter, so bright, so strong, so talented, and said, "Nothing. You did absolutely nothing wrong." Later that evening, Leah's father tore the notice in half and dropped it in the trash. "Clarissa's been harassing anyone who doesn't fit her perfect mold," he muttered. The Ramirez family moved out last month. Same story. Complaints, fines, harassment. She wants this whole neighborhood to look like her idea of a picture-perfect brochure. But this was home now. They weren't going anywhere. Despite the daily stress, there was one place Leah found complete freedom, at her piano. Her legs might be weak, but her hands could move like magic. Her music wasn't just sound, it was feeling. Her fingers flowed with precision and emotion, capturing moments of sadness, joy, hope, and peace. Sometimes, with the windows open, the notes drifted into the street, and neighbors would slow down just to listen. It was the only time Leah felt truly seen. Not as the girl in the scooter, not as the one with the dog, but as an artist. Someone with something beautiful to give. She poured her emotions into each key. Some evenings her parents would stand quietly in the doorway and watch, their eyes misty. They knew what the music meant to her. It was her rebellion, her healing, her voice. One Thursday afternoon, Lynn came home carrying a flyer in her hand and a lightness in her step. "The neighborhood barbecue is next weekend," she announced, placing the paper on the kitchen table. "The organizer asked if you'd be willing to perform. He's heard your music from the street. He said your talent deserves an audience." Leah looked up, her eyes widening. "They want me to play?" Lynn nodded. "Yes, you'd be the special entertainment." For the first time in weeks, Leah smiled, her fingers dancing in the air as if already imagining the melody. Maybe if they hear my music, they'll stop seeing the wheelchair. Maybe they'll finally see me." Her father leaned in, placing a hand over hers. "They'll see you, baby girl. They'll hear your heart." That night, Leah began writing a new piece. Something personal, something powerful. She called it Finding Home. The summer sun shone bright over Pinecrest Park the following weekend. Tables lined with food, children laughing on swings. The aroma of grilled corn and barbecue filled the air. Leah and her family arrived early to get a good spot near the pavilion, close to where the small keyboard was set up on a raised platform. Her father adjusted her scooter's positioning. Her mother spread a blanket and set up chairs. People smiled and waved, some even greeting Leah warmly, commenting how excited they were to hear her play. But not everyone was smiling. Clarissa Monroe spotted them from across the lawn. Her eyes narrowed the moment she saw Leah's scooter positioned prominently near the stage. She approached, arms crossed, expression tight. "The seating area is over there," she said coldly, pointing toward a distant, overcrowded row of picnic tables. Leah's father didn't flinch. "This spot works better for Leah. We cleared it with the organizer." Clarissa's lips tightened. She didn't argue further, but she didn't smile either. She turned and walked away, her jaw clenched. As the afternoon wore on, Leah mingled with other teens who asked about her music and favorite songs. Children asked about Miso, and she showed them how he responded to commands and kept her calm. "He's better trained than most people I know," she joked, making the kids laugh. She even let a few of them try sitting on her scooter. "Just don't speed," she warned playfully. The sound of laughter echoed around them. For the first time since moving to Pinecrest, Leah felt like she belonged. Then the announcement came. "We'll be hearing a special performance in 15 minutes from Leah Nguyen. Gather near the pavilion." The crowd clapped. Some neighbors took seats on the grass. The event organizer helped adjust the keyboard to a comfortable height. Her parents gently helped her transfer from the scooter to the bench. Leah smoothed her dress, took a deep breath, and rested her fingers on the keys. Everything was perfect. But across the park, Clarissa Monroe was not clapping. She was unlocking her car. And inside her trunk sat a carton of eggs. Leah's fingers danced across the keys, her heart pouring into each note as if every breath, every memory, every silent scream had been transformed into music. The melody began gently, like a breeze moving through trees, soft and hopeful. But with every passing measure, the piece grew more powerful, weaving themes of struggle, yearning, and strength. The crowd, previously scattered and chatting, fell silent, drawn into the magnetic beauty of Leah's playing. Some stood with folded arms, nodding slowly to the rhythm. Others sat cross-legged on the grass, mesmerized. Parents hushed their children. Even the usual noise of birds and dogs seemed to pause for her. The music was doing exactly what Leah had hoped. It was letting them see her, not as the disabled girl with the dog, but as someone full of life and talent. Her eyes were closed as she leaned into the crescendo, fingers moving faster now, conveying triumph, belonging, and hope. And that was the moment it happened. A scream tore through the serenity. "This ends now!" Clarissa Monroe's voice cracked like a whip through the crowd. People turned just in time to see her shove through the front row, her arm raised, a white egg clutched in her hand. Before anyone could react, she hurled it at Leah. The egg struck her shoulder and exploded, yellow yolk splashing across her dress, her neck, and the pristine keyboard. There was a collective gasp, a second of frozen disbelief, and then a second egg followed, hitting Leah square in the chest. Clarissa's face was contorted in fury, her voice rising into shrieks. "Stop your special treatment. Stop breaking all the rules. This community has standards." She hurled a third egg, this time hitting Leah's lap. Miso barked, startled and trying to shield his handler. Leah stopped playing, her body trembling, tears welling up as egg yolk dripped down her cheeks like poison. Her fingers, once so strong and sure, now hovered mid-air, paralyzed in shock. People around her scrambled in horror, unsure whether to move or confront. Then a young boy named Eli, no more than 9, ran forward and placed himself in front of Leah, arms spread. "Leave her alone!" he shouted. The next egg struck him in the chest, splattering across his Spider-Man t-shirt. That was the moment something shifted. The paralyzing silence broke. Leah's father rushed forward and grabbed Clarissa's arm, pulling her back as she flailed and shrieked. Her mother wrapped Leah in a towel, holding her tight, whispering calming words as Leah sobbed and shook. "Call the police," yelled Mrs. Abernathy, a retired school principal who had watched everything unfold with disbelief. People were pulling out phones, recording what they could. Clarissa didn't stop yelling about the scooter, the ramp, the dog, the music, the attention. "She's ruining this neighborhood. Everyone's had to adjust for her. She doesn't belong here." The crowd was no longer with her. The shock had turned to rage. Neighbors who had once stayed silent about Clarissa's antics now stepped forward, shouting back, condemning her. Within minutes, a police cruiser arrived, lights flashing. Officers took Clarissa into custody as she continued to scream, now claiming she was the real victim. "They've been undermining the HOA. She's manipulating everyone," she shouted, her wrists bound by cold silver cuffs. One officer stayed behind to take statements. The event organizer, Leah's parents, Mrs. Abernathy, and even Eli gave detailed accounts. The officer looked at the soaked, trembling girl, still seated, still surrounded by broken shells and shattered silence, and nodded grimly. The next day, news of the attack spread like wildfire. Social media was flooded with videos, testimonials, and hashtags like #Justice for Leah and #HOA abuse. Advocacy groups for disability rights condemned the assault publicly. Pinecrest residents were shocked into reflection, many realizing just how long they had let Clarissa rule unchecked. The incident wasn't just an act of cruelty. It had exposed the rot beneath the surface. But for Leah, the fallout was far more personal. Though she washed away the egg, the shame clung to her like a second skin. She stopped practicing. She refused to go outside. She had nightmares of eggs falling from the sky, of keyboards cracking beneath her fingers. In therapy, she whispered through tears, "I don't understand. I was just playing music. I wasn't hurting anyone." The district attorney wasted no time. Charges were filed against Clarissa Monroe for assault and for committing a hate crime against a person with a disability. Her refusal to apologize or accept responsibility only made matters worse. "I was just enforcing rules," she told reporters. "I never intended to harm anyone." But the community wasn't buying it. The evidence was overwhelming. Video clips, witness accounts, HOA meeting minutes that showed a pattern of discriminatory behavior, and perhaps most damning, emails uncovered from Clarissa's personal account. In them, she referred to Leah as a blemish on the community and a burden on property values. The trial was set, and the court was packed from day one. Leah had thought she would never step foot into a courtroom. But when the judge allowed her to speak during the sentencing hearing, she decided to face the woman who had tried to erase her. She walked with crutches that day, not because she needed them, but because she wanted to feel every step, every inch of her strength. Standing tall before the court, she took a breath and spoke with a voice soft but steady. Before last summer, I believed music could reach anyone. I believed that if I played well enough, people would see me. Not my chair, not my legs, not my dog. Just me. She paused, her eyes fixed on Clarissa. When you threw those eggs, you weren't just trying to humiliate me. You were telling me that my very existence was an offense to you, that no matter how hard I tried, I would never be allowed to belong here. The courtroom was still. I couldn't touch my piano for weeks. I couldn't go to the park. I was afraid of being seen. Your hatred didn't just splatter on my skin. It sank into me, and I still feel it some days. But I also learned something. That hatred doesn't define me. Your rules don't define me. My music does. Clarissa said nothing. She hadn't looked at Leah once during the entire trial. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours, guilty, on all charges. At the sentencing, the judge spoke with rare intensity. Miss Monroe, this court has seldom witnessed a clearer case of calculated cruelty. You singled out a young woman whose only crime was being different. You assaulted her not in private, not in a moment of panic, but in public, in front of her neighbors, intending maximum humiliation. Clarissa stood still, her jaw tight. You claim it was about rules, but rules are meant to protect, not to wound. And you broke the most basic rule of all, human decency. Then came the sentence, 12 years in state prison. Gasps echoed through the room. Leah's parents held hands. Clarissa showed no remorse as she was led away, but for the first time, her eyes flicked toward Leah. And in them, maybe just maybe, there was a flicker of understanding. 3 years passed. The HOA had new leadership. Leah's father was now part of the board, and together with others, they had rewritten community rules to protect, not punish, those with disabilities. The neighborhood, once ruled by silence and fear, had found a new voice in compassion. Leah had slowly returned to the piano, composing piece by piece, note by note. But the melody she had started at the barbecue remained unfinished, until the night of her performance at Carnegie Hall. Under the glow of golden lights, Leah sat alone on a grand piano bench. Her fingers rested gently on the keys. The piece she played was called Broken Shells. It had started from the ruins of that summer day, but it had evolved into something even more powerful, an anthem of healing, courage, and triumph. The audience was silent, moved not only by the music, but by the young woman behind it. Her parents sat in the front row, hands intertwined, tears in their eyes. Some former Pinecrest neighbors had traveled across states just to witness it, because they remembered the pain, and they wanted to honor the victory. After the concert, Leah opened a letter she had received just that morning. The return address was a women's correctional facility. The handwriting was shaky but familiar. Dear Leah, you probably won't read this. I don't expect forgiveness. But after 3 years of therapy, I see what I couldn't before. It was never about the rules. It was about my fear, about my need to control a world that scared me. You showed me through your music the courage I never had. I listen to your recordings every week. They bring me peace, even in here. Thank you for helping me understand what real strength looks like. With regret, Clarissa. Leah folded the letter and placed it in her bag. She would decide what to do with it later. Tonight wasn't about old wounds. It was about wholeness. She stepped back onto the stage and sat down once more. I'd like to close with a piece I call Beyond Brokenness. It's for anyone who's ever been told they don't belong. The music began, soft, steady, rising. And this time there were no interruptions, only the soaring sound of freedom.